This is a retrospective. In the year of our Lord, 2020, I picked up painting again after years of not making any art. The process of doing this propelled me forward in my healing journey, and it was the first step to permanently overcoming depression. We are going to review those paintings in chronological order, and I am going to tell you what was going on inside my silly little brain while I was painting them. Let me set the scene. It is late 2020. I was living alone for the first time in my life. I was dealing with some intense personal trauma. I was dealing with the collective worldwide trauma of COVID-19. I was depressed, I was anxious, I was nihilistic. Maybe you can relate. I felt like I didn't want to be on this earth anymore. I'm not going to elaborate further right now. You're gonna see when we get to the paintings. My boyfriend, the sweetest man in the entire world, wanted to help me feel better. We had only been dating for 6 months at the time and had bonded over the fact that we were both artists and painters. He bought canvases, paint, and a couple palette knives for us to use. He thought that painting could be a good emotional outlet for me and a way to express and process my thoughts and my feelings. And of course, he ended up being right. This is the first painting that I created. I used just the palette knife and the basic primary colors, red, yellow, blue, and then threw some black and white in there. And I really just let my hand move of its own accord. I didn't really think about painting anything specific. I just wanted to see what would come up if I put the paint on the canvas. And I did have the goal of trying to visually express what I was feeling on the inside. So this is the result of that. It is very chaotic, and you can see this bright yellow spot in the middle. And then the strokes of the palette knife were a little harsh. I was not being kind to the canvas when I created this piece. When I finished this piece and I looked at it, what I saw was like the perspective of the viewer or myself as the painter sort of falling backwards into darkness, looking up at this like circle of light above or up ahead that is slowly getting further away. And again, it is representative of how I was feeling at the time. I felt like I was constantly falling backwards into a darkness, unable to sort of climb my way back up towards the light. So this was painted 12/6/2020. So December 6th of 2020 is when this first piece was created. Next piece. This one was done on the 8th, so December 8th, 2020, just 2 days later. You can see there's almost two figures. There is this dark person, this is the head, you have sort of a hand coming up here, and then this is a more colorful person made of blue. They're both together holding this, again, this like ball of yellow light. And this ball of light became a symbol or a motif that will appear several times throughout this series of paintings. And I would classify this as a self-portrait. I think it's maybe two versions of myself. This dark part of myself that felt hopeless, and then this more colorful self that has this, red beating heart that is maybe, this part of me was maybe somewhere deep inside that I just wasn't manifesting or fulfilling or outwardly expressing, or this was either a hope, this is the person that I wanted to be. I wanted to become a more bright, colorful person. So this person that I wanted to be is here trying to offer this light and this hope to the dark me that I was inhabiting at the time. Number 3. This one is rough. This one is rough. This was painted on the 14th of December in 2020. And I used only 2 colors this time, red and black. I think the symbolism of the colors is a little obvious here. Black is bad, red is also bad. So when I painted this, I was feeling really bad. All of these were done using just paint and a palette knife. I never used a paintbrush. So this is a more like impressionist, impasto sort of style of painting. I was not feeling good at all. I felt like I was lost in this spiral of unhappiness, sadness, whatever you want to call it. But if you look closely, there is another representation of me. So I would also classify this as a self-portrait. And you can see here in the middle is the general shape of a person. You can see a head, kind of a curved body, curved arms, legs sort of bent, tucked together, lying in a fetal pose. So I think this was a low point for me. And then about 2 weeks later, I picked up the paint again. So this was painted on December 26th of 2020, which is the day after Christmas. I, again, at the time, dealing with depression and anxiety, I really wasn't a fan of being around people very much. I got really tired. I felt really overwhelmed, especially in a time where it's Christmas, so everything is supposed to be jolly and joyful and happy. And when I wasn't feeling jolly, joyful, and happy, it made it a little more difficult, as I'm sure you can imagine. In order to deal with the sort of mental and emotional load of being around people and sort of pretending to be happy, I had imagined that I was surrounded in this golden light that would sort of act as a barrier between me and the world around me, or me and the people around me. I would classify this as, again, me in the middle, and then these sort of swirling, angry, chaotic emotions, feelings, world around me, and then this sort of yellow golden light surrounding me like a shield. So I think that I was maybe starting to feel better here, or at least feeling, I was at least trying, right? I was at least trying. I was making some effort to combat the depression and combat the issues that I was having when it came to my emotional state. I was trying something. I was trying to protect myself in some way. And I believe it worked. I believe I had a pretty good Christmas. And I think it's the sort of thing that, and I think this happens a lot when we have like social anxiety, stuff like that. You always dread the moments before. You always think, oh, I really don't want to go see my family, or I really don't want to go be around a bunch of people. And that those sort of thoughts are trying to get you to stay stuck where you are. But then you always feel better once you actually do it. And especially if it's your family, especially if you like your family, like I love my family, then they have the ability to sort of pull me out of myself and whatever emotions I'm stuck in. And I can just sort of live in the moment and be around them and be a little happier. So that's this one. Number 5. This is, again, another self-portrait. You can see there's like red at the top for hair. I had short hair at this time. I had very short, like a boy pixie cut, cropped hair. And then you can see the darkness behind me as sort of a representation of the depression, the sadness, and then this sort of halo of gold light. And maybe it was maybe I was starting to feel better here. And so I'm showing this light as, I don't know, I want to say like watching over me. That's just sort of the words that are coming to mind right now. I'm not sure the exact symbolism. Maybe there isn't any. Maybe I just liked the way that it looked. That's also possible. What strikes me more about this one is the way that I depicted myself. So the proportions of my body are a little off. Of course, I have like a really long, elongated neck. And then there's not a ton of expression on my face, just like the lips are very simple. And then the brows are sort of like angled downward as if I'm angry. So I thought, looking back now years later, that's what I noticed the most, and I do think that that's interesting. And we're gonna see a very different self-portrait, a very different depiction. You're gonna see a big difference. So I think number one, looking at how I painted myself here and then comparing that to several months in the future, I think is what's most interesting about this one. Painting number 6. So this one goes back to that motif of the very first painting. So the bright light in the center and the darkness around it. This one I did that intentionally. I wanted to see how that sort of same imagery transforms over the course of this series as I improve and feel better. So when I look back at this one, I see the darkness here is less oppressive. It doesn't cover the whole canvas. It's not the entire world. It is this thing that is here and present, and I see it coming up here, kind of surrounding the ball of light, trying to consume it, trying to choke it out, but the light itself is trying to break free and trying to sort of jump out and expand. And I think that this is again a representation of me now actively trying to get better, trying to feed this light and bring this light more into my life, while it felt like the depression was still trying to hold onto me. It felt like a thing that was separate from myself that is affecting me. And I think that's why I like to talk about it in that way as well. I talk about overcoming depression or beating it. I know that it's in general talked about as a, like a mental health disorder that is something that you are like sick with. And I think that makes it a part of you. And I don't think that depression is a part of you. I think that depression is something else trying to come in and take over your mind and take over your body. It's not a part of you. It's just an obstacle to overcome. So I was, let me check the dates. This was January 6th of 2021. I'm getting there. I'm at least working hard, trying to feel better. I think also you can see here that maybe I feel like the world around me was starting to be a little more colorful. I was becoming a little more in touch with my surroundings. Ooh, this one is definitely a step backwards. So this one I painted on the 14th of January, 2021. And it is another self-portrait. You can see here's the eyes, there's a nose here, and then this mouth that's open, that's almost kind of coming off the page. And then these sort of blue streaks coming down. And then the eyebrows, the same sort of like pointy, angry eyebrows coming up. I painted this when I was triggered. This was a direct, I'm feeling these emotions. They are overwhelming me. I need to get them out of my body. And I put them on this canvas. And if you've ever been triggered, and I'm not talking like, oh, I'm upset and offended. I'm talking like the physical sensations of your body going into an intense fight or flight and thinking, I'm not safe here. I need to run. I need to scream. I need to punch something, whatever. I always describe it as feeling this like energy or electricity that runs through my body, and I feel it. I get like tingles down my arms. And then it's, of course, accompanied with the emotional feelings of being very overwhelmed or stressed or sad. In this depiction of myself, I am both crying and screaming at the same time. It's definitely a big jump, and we're going to see another big jump here to this next one, but a big jump from feeling like working on it and trying to break out of the darkness to falling back into it, a week and a half later and feeling very overwhelmed. That is a good example of a healing journey being not linear, that it's always a little up, a little down, 2 steps forward, 1 step backwards, and it's a cycle. You go through the cycle of feeling bad, working on it, coping mechanisms, improving your mental state and your mindfulness and your thought processes, and sort of trying to interrupt those bad thoughts, replace them with something better. And then something happens, you get triggered, you fall right back into it again. And ideally, every time you fall down, it's not as bad as the time before. And slowly, every cycle, it gets a little better and a little better. So that's when you know that you've made progress, is when you can fall back or get triggered or have another bout of anxiety or depression, but then think back to months ago and say, oh, even though I'm feeling bad right now, I'm not feeling as bad as I used to. Next painting. This one was painted on February 3rd of 2021. So a couple weeks later. This is another self-portrait, and this is the one where I mentioned wanting to compare from the last one. So again, you see me depicted here, and you see a yellow background this time. So we've graduated from the dark backgrounds, and we found some lighter, more happy colors here. And then it's hard to see here, but there is like a little white circle at the top. Again, that motif of that ball of light. What I find interesting here is that I don't think I used black. Looking at it now, I don't think I used any black at all. The dark spots here are either a dark blue or blue mixed with red to make sort of a purple color. So I didn't use any black, and the actual strokes themselves, the way that I used the palette and manipulated the paint, is much smoother than in these past paintings. I mean, just to compare these two, like this one uses a lot of short, harsh strokes, and the way the colors mix is sort of, I want to say, just kind of ugly looking, like they don't mix very well. And compare that to this one where the mixing of the colors is a lot smoother. I'm using longer strokes, like I'm taking a little bit more time and a little bit more care to make it look good. And if you come in closely, there is sort of this like faint upwards motion, a little bit of a smile coming in, and my brows are not pointed and angry anymore. They're a little softer. So I was definitely feeling better when I painted this piece, and I think you're gonna see that from here on out, the overall look and feel of the paintings definitely changes. Painting number 9. This one was painted on February 10th of 2021. This one is a little more abstract. You can see the yellow here, yellow and white mixed together, sort of a yellow and red transitioning into blue, some black here. I'm realizing now that in earlier pieces, I would mix the yellow and the white with the darker colors, like the blue and the black. And that's sort of what was leading to those sort of muddy, harsh, ugly looking parts of it. And I think from here on out moving forward, I avoid that. I don't think that was intentional, because I I'm like realizing that now in the moment talking about these. So I think that was more of a subconscious change, which is interesting. I think I was just painting what I was feeling. I think I just wanted to make something that looked interesting. You see this sort of yellow and white, this sort of light sort of coming through, maybe even like this red here is a symbol of burning through the darkness or even transforming the darkness as this light grows. Next painting, this was done on February 25th, so a couple weeks after the previous one. And this is a hand. You can see the thumb and then the 4 fingers here. We have that light yellow background once again, and then this sort of dark red spot in the middle. Now, I'm gonna be honest, I do not know what this means. I don't remember what I was feeling or where I was at or anything that was happening around this time. So I'll just do some speculation here. It was either trying to, I'm thinking about the symbol of a hand, and a hand usually means being able to like hold and control something. So maybe this was me either feeling like I was in control of the bad stuff or wanting to be in control, or that was like my goal, was to feel like I was in control. So I don't know, you guys tell me, what do you, when you see this one, what do you think? What do you, knowing what you already know about all the previous paintings, tell me what you think about this one. Next, this was March 17th of 2021. So we come back to the ball of light and the darkness. And a big change from the previous one, the darkness is no longer trying to reach up and consume the ball of light. It just is here. It exists, it's there, but it maybe doesn't have as much power as it did before. And the ball of light is in balance with the depression. I am here in stillness with the light and with the darkness, and there's maybe a little bit more peace, I would say, feeling like I've made progress and I've gotten better, and I'm just taking a moment to sit with it and see what's going to come next. This one I think is one of my favorites out of this entire series. Just looking from a purely artistic perspective, I think that this one is beautiful in terms of the colors, in terms of the composition. This depiction of me here in the middle, sort of the same motifs of the blue figure with the red heart and then the ball of light above. I don't think I used any black in this piece. I think this is just all color and white. And I do remember why I painted this one. I wanted to sort of symbolize the way that I felt doing hot yoga. So in early 2021, I started a regular hot yoga practice that was, again, initiated by my boyfriend. He thought that it would also help me to feel better. So I fell in love with hot yoga to the point where I am now a yoga instructor all these years later. I was obviously feeling better at the time I painted. This was March 23rd of 2020. Again, another interesting change that I see here is that it's nicer to look at, right? Like this one, looking at these two compared, just the way that the colors are mixed, the way that the paint is laid onto the canvas is just very different from one to the other. And I feel like this one here has, the first one has a lot more, I would say, chaos to it. There's a lot more chaos, a lot more, I don't know, it's hard to describe it. Describe? Hard to describe, but I mean, that one compared to this one just has a smoother look. I think that, number one, the colors used, the way it looks, makes a big difference, but then looking at the way that I physically applied the paint to the canvas, it was definitely done with a different intention and a different sort of energy, and that really comes across when you can look and compare them now. And again, that was not intentional. I wasn't looking back at these pieces when I was painting them. I like made them and then let them dry and then put them away, shoved them away. I didn't want to look at them again, think about them again. It wasn't about making art to look at. It was about making art to process my emotions. So it's interesting now to come back years later and see the similarities and the differences and the way that things changed, because again, all of that is subconscious. And I think that makes it more of a true reflection of my emotions and my journey and the process of all of this. So this is the next piece. This was April 27th. Ooh, that was a long time. Yeah, so this is almost a month later that I was coming back to this. And I think I was coming back because I was feeling bad. I think this is more of a negative piece. You can see the version of me depicted here, and there's obviously this darkness up here. It kind of looks like a really big afro, which is kind of funny. That was not my intention. The intention was to show how sometimes the negative emotions can feel like this weight. I wanted this to feel a little large, a little overwhelming. I wanted it to feel like it was weighing down and like sitting heavily on this depiction of me. And again, I came back to this because I was feeling bad, and so I wanted to express it. And I think the reason why there's a month in between the previous one and this one is because I'd been feeling better. I think I'd been feeling much better, doing better, making progress. I wasn't having as many or as maybe as intense bouts of the depression and the anxiety. So I didn't feel the need to come and sit and paint because I think I was living in the moment. I was feeling better. I was feeling happier. So I was living in the moment more. That happens to us a lot of the times when we're in a negative state of mind. Then we start to feel, we go a little more internal. We look into ourselves and we're focused on our feelings and our thoughts and our emotions. And so it becomes more of a priority to deal with those. And then the times when you are feeling better and happier, then you are usually more outwardly focused and focused on the people around you and the things that you're doing and upcoming events, stuff like that. So you don't necessarily come back to those coping mechanisms as much because again, all of this painting and stuff for me was a heavy coping mechanism. Now we're on to the last one. And this one, I will say that I came at it definitely with intention, and I sort of knew I wanted to paint something like this before I sat down to do it. But I took the time and I wanted to wait until I really felt like I was ready for it. Like I mentioned in the beginning of this video, this whole process was the first big successful step in permanently overcoming depression. So I wanted to wait to paint this last piece until I felt like I sort of hit that milestone. So let's take a look at it. This was painted June. This was June 14th of 2021. So several months. Late April, May, June. Okay, so this was like a month and a half after this last piece that I came and painted this one. This one is a play on that same motif of the ball of light surrounded by darkness, but it has been reversed to this ball of darkness surrounded by light, and the darkness is falling away or disintegrating. The reversal of the colors, the same imagery, but the reversal of the colors showed that there is more light in my life than there is darkness. and the darkness is still there. The depression was still there. Like I said, this was the first step. So it took several more years for me to feel like I have fully overcome it. Like I don't get depressed. I'll have days where I'm sad, but I don't get depressed anymore the way that I used to. It's not like that clinical, chronic, long-term, long-lasting depression. Back here in June of 2021, I felt like I was on the right path. There was more happiness in my life than there was sadness. The sadness was still there. The trauma was still there, of course. And again, it is now in the process of breaking apart and falling away and leaving me. Looking at the colors themselves and the way that the paint is mixed, personally, I think is beautiful. I love the way that, like, the black and the red and the yellow and white and the blue, they kind of blend, but they don't really mix. It doesn't really turn into that like ugly, muddy colors that some of the previous paintings did. So there's still an element of beauty. It's interesting to look at, and it's easy to look at. I think the other ones, they're sometimes, at least for me, especially being personally connected to it, looking back, the other ones were hard to look at. And it was, there was like too much, it was chaotic. There was a lot for the eye to see, and it was jumping around and whatnot. But these, the strokes are larger and smoother, and they transition from one to the other a little easier. I want to compare this one and the first one, just as a point of interest, just to really be able to see the difference. So, I don't know, is this, when it's on the screen, I'm trying to go left to right. I think this is left to right. So this is the first one, this is the last one. Very, very big difference. And I am very grateful to have gotten to this point, to have come out of the darkness and fully into the light. And it was not easy. It's never easy, but it's definitely worth it. Of course it's worth it. So if you are in a place now where you are feeling sad, depressed, anxious, lonely, you feel like the darkness is closing in, you feel like the light is out of reach, I promise you that it is possible to come out of that, to reach the light, to beat the depression. It is not part of you. It is not something that you are always going to deal with. It is possible to fully cure yourself. And I know that's not what is maybe told. I know that's not what people say about it. And there might be plenty of people out there who are going to fully disagree with me on that. But that's my experience. And it's hard because when you're in the middle of it, you don't want to be happy. But that's a lie. That's a lie. That's something else. Something else is coming into your brain and telling you that you don't want to be happy. And it's not you. That's something that is separate from yourself. You don't have to believe that. You don't have to listen to that little voice that tells you you don't want to be happy, because you do want to be happy. And once you get there, you realize, oh, this is so great. Why did I let myself sit in that darkness for so long? I want to discuss a couple of questions that came up for me. So this is more of like a concluding reflection on everything that we just looked at. Number one, creation as an emotional outlet. Creation, making art can be whatever you want it to be. It can be painting, drawing, writing, music, dance, something. I think that humans are inherently creative beings. We have a desire to make something. It doesn't have to be, the end result that symbolizes those emotions, whatever, kind of like I did, but the act of creation, I think, is very beneficial to us as human beings. And do it even if you're bad at it, even if you make art and it's not pretty, even if you bake a cake and it comes out weird, still do it. You're only going to get better by doing it. And again, it's not the end result that matters. It's the process of doing it. So if you can fully invest yourself, mind, body, and spirit into what you are doing and try and leave everything else behind, give yourself over to the process of creation, I think no matter what, you're going to get something positive out of that. As I was going through these pieces, I wondered or asked myself, did this at any point become sort of fake or performative? Because I knew that I was painting as a way to express my emotions. I knew that I was creating sort of a record of my feelings and my progress and my journey. So once I knew that that's what I was doing, was I creating pieces that would fit in the story of someone's healing journey, or was I actually healing in his journey and then creating the art as a byproduct? Was it true progress? Was I actually making progress, or was I just painting what progress would look like from an outside perspective? And I think it was true progress. I don't think it ever became fake or performative. I really think it is authentic as much as it can be, because again, there is the meta of me knowing that I was making a collection. I think the fact that I was making paintings and sort of documenting my journey did, on some level, inspire me to have a journey to document. But I think that it really doesn't matter, because the end result is that I got better. The end result is that I did heal and I did improve and I did come out the other side a happier, better person. I think that the fact that I am here now, having completely overcome my depression and being able to look back on these paintings with a satisfaction that I have made so much progress and I've come so far. There's definitely a twinge of sadness for the person that I was at the time. Just sort of be amazed with how deep into it I was, how deep down in the darkness and the depression that I had sank in. There's almost a level of like, I feel kind of silly for it, because I felt, because of how hopeless I felt, and now knowing now how much hope I have in myself and in the future compared to there where I didn't even want there to be a future for myself. And like I said, it took several more years for me to fully heal, but this was the first big step, and I am forever grateful to my wonderful boyfriend who set me on that path and really pushed me and encouraged me to feel better and get better and heal and improve. And him doing that and believing in me so much. I don't think this is going to happen. Him doing that and pushing and believing in me then inspired me to believe in myself. And I think that's maybe the biggest, or one of the biggest takeaways, is believe in yourself. Believe that you can heal. Believe that you can get better. Believe that you can overcome the depression, anxiety, trauma, PTSD, whatever you're going through. You have the power and the ability to get through it and come out better on the other side. And it is a choice that you have to make. And it is an active decision. It's not just going to happen, but you have to work at it. You have to sit with yourself in the uncomfortable moments and dig deep into your mind and your thoughts and your emotions and say, where is this coming from? Why do I feel this way? Why do I believe this negative thing about myself? Where is this coming from? And decide, that you don't have to believe that about yourself anymore, or you don't have to react to something the same way as you used to. You can change yourself, and you have to do it even when you don't want to. You have to do it even when you don't want to. This is where the belief comes in, because you can not want to get better. You can not want to improve. You can want to stay stuck. Outside of the wanting or not wanting, you have to believe that it's better on the other side. And it's not going to be easy. It's going to take work, and it's going to take going through the same cycle over and over again. It's a long process, but it's worth it. So I hope that wherever you are at in your journey, you keep going. I hope you decide to believe in yourself. I hope that you decide to put in the work to get better, because you're gonna come out on the other side so grateful that you did, and so much happier than you are right now. And it's going to blow you away that life can be so good. Thank you guys so much for coming on this retrospective journey with me. I hope you enjoyed delving through my mind back in 2020, 2021. Please let me know in the comments down below if any of this was helpful at all, and stay tuned for more. I've got a lot more videos like these coming, looking back on art that I made when I was a kid, back school projects, college projects, things like that. So don't forget to like and subscribe to Sun Rae Art. Stay tuned, and I'll see you in the next one.